But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that.
I can assure you what the CIA director said, that when we look at the entirety of the intelligence that we have to this date, it concludes that these strikes on the Iranian nuclear facilities were absolutely successful. It was a total obliteration, as the president said, and not only does our own intelligence say that.
This was an historically successful attack, and we should celebrate it as Americans, and it gives us a chance to have peace, a chance to have a deal, and an opportunity to prevent a nuclear Iran, which is something President Trump talked about for 20 years, and no other presidents had the courage to actually do.
First, let me say that I've always said that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, plain and simple. President Trump said that the nuclear stockpile was completely and totally obliterated. I did not receive an adequate answer to that question. What was clear is that there was no coherent strategy, no end game, no plan, no detailed plan on how Iran does not attain a nuclear weapon. Anyone in that meeting, anyone, if they're being honest with themselves, their constituents, their colleagues, would know that we need to enforce the War Powers Act and force them to articulate an answer to some specific questions and a coherent strategy right away.
Where's the current timeline?
I don't know. I'm flying my wife and kids up here to spend the weekend with me. So I don't know. I think, ideally we need to be voting this weekend, but the timeline's getting pushed because of some changes we got to do in the bill to make some things work. And every time that happens, it delays it by hours. So I feel confident that we're still going to be voting this weekend.
Is it changing? So you still think we'll get it through sometime? When you say this weekend, you mean Saturday, Sunday? Does that mean Monday morning at 4:45?
Before work starts Monday, I'm pretty confident we're going to have a bill. Now that could happen. It can move quick, right? If we make big changes in the bill, then it can set us back. You got to get a score before you can even get the bird pass started. If we just make some tweaks to the language that's there, then we can go straight into the parliamentarian, and that could take hours. But then you got a 20-hour turnaround.
But part of the idea here with the alternatives to the provider taxes, Senator Thune had indicated that he had Plan B and C. The idea that you cook some of these things up, have them on the back burner in case of that type of.
Well, we have A, B, C, and now we have D. After the ruling that came out. But we are getting so close as a conference of just finalizing it. And this was probably the most productive conference we've had.
Listen, I appreciate the briefing. This briefing should have happened immediately after these strikes. I think there's a real question as to why the Director of National Intelligence is not allowed to be in these briefings. That's a question that we should get answered. Listen, to me it still appears that we have only set back the Iranian nuclear program by a handful of months. There's no doubt there was damage done to the program, but the allegations that we have obliterated their program just don't seem to stand up to reason. So obviously I can't share any of the details from this briefing, but I just do not think the president was telling the truth when he said this program was obliterated. There's certainly damage done to the program, but there is there's still significant remaining capability for the Iranians.
Knowing what you know now, would you have authorized it? Knowing what you know now, if the president had come to Congress to get approval to authorize this mission, would he have had your vote?
No. Ultimately, the only way to truly constrain Iran's nuclear program is diplomacy. You cannot bomb knowledge out of existence. No matter how many scientists you kill, there are still people in Iran who know how to work centrifuges. And if they still have enriched uranium and they still have the ability to use centrifuges, then you're not setting back the program by years. You're setting back the program by months. The only path forward is diplomacy. And I just have not heard a realistic path from this administration about diplomacy. Of course, all of us would love a diplomatic agreement in which Iran promises to hold no enriched material. But that has not been a reasonable predicate for negotiations in the past, and it is not likely to be a reasonable predicate for negotiations in the future.
Mr. Chairman, if there's additional force required necessary to do further damage to Iran's nuclear program, do you think that action should be vetted or consulted through Congress?
Well, first off, as I said, I think we've caused catastrophic damage to Iran's nuclear program. That's not to say they might not try to reconstitute it at some time. But for those of you around 10 years ago during the debate over Barack Obama's nuclear weapons program, we often use the phrase vast nuclear infrastructure because it does take a vast infrastructure. And I know everyone's very focused on what happened at a couple of these underground bunkers or what happened with canisters of uranium. But if you look at the whole span of what happened over 12 days, the targeting of Iran's nuclear scientists, the underground bunkers, the centrifuge manufacturing sites, the gas to metal conversion sites. That's why we're confident, since all of those are single points of failure in an effort to get a nuclear weapon, that we have had an extraordinary success. Now again, both the President and Prime Minister Netanyahu have said that Iran should not try to reconstitute their nuclear weapons program, and if they do, then all options will remain on the table.
If this leader was a member, do you think they should be prosecuted? Todd Blanche wouldn't rule that out last night when asked about it.
Well, the law applies equally to everyone, and no one should leak classified information.
Do people of both parties seem satisfied by the amount of damage caused? Is there agreement in the room?
I think you'll have to ask some of our Democratic colleagues. I suspect those who are satisfied won't stop here, and those who are dissatisfied will stop and explain their reasons.
Do you have some sense of where the enriched uranium is at this point? Has the intelligence community figured that out at this point?
I don't have a comment on that. I will say it was not part of the mission to destroy all their enriched uranium or to seize it or anything else. Again, this is not a Mission Impossible movie. There's not a single thing out there that can be done or not done to allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon. It's the entire chain of events and people and places that you have to put together to get a nuclear weapon. The scientists, the centrifuges, the repair parts, centrifuge manufacturing, the cascades of centrifuges, the gas to metal conversion facilities. But I'm confident the mission was extraordinary.
But if that enriched uranium, on the Kane resolution, which will come up tomorrow night, you would vote how?
Well, I'll say this. I love that man, and he's coming in from a very principled side. But I'm going to vote no on that, simply because I would never want to restrict any future president, Republican or Democrat, to do this kind of a military kind of exercise that was very successful like this has been.
It doesn't matter what Senator Murphy thinks about me or I think about him. Here's where we're at. The program was obliterated at those three sites, but they still have ambitions. I don't know where the 900 pounds of highly enriched uranium exists, but it wasn't part of the target set.
Are you concerned that in light of that several years, I mean, when the administration is saying it's obliterated, it suggests that they're not able to build a weapon. But you're saying in several years, perhaps they'll be able to.
That's what I'm saying. They're obliterated today, but you can reconstitute it. Isn't the real question, have we obliterated their desire to have a nuclear weapon? As long as they desire one, as long as they want to kill all the Jews, you still have a problem on your hands. I don't want people to think that the site wasn't severely damaged or obliterated. It was. But having said that, I don't want people to think the problem is over, because it's not. They're going to keep trying this as long as they change, until they change their stated goal. Now, will they ever do that? I don't know.
Subscribe to Oneindia and never miss an update. Download the Oneindia app now.